gentlemen, put your hands together for the foil project.
I'll give you a rundown first. We're in Perth for race week.
Yeah.
This is something that Hugh actually, I wanted to come to race week last year, but the Coldplay concert ruined it for James and I.
Yeah,
but we booked in this year and we're here, and thanks to you and Dan, you made it all super clear for all us out-of-towners which races, because there's about 4.
Yeah, there's 4. Yeah,
and then plus the fun run that you and Dan are organising.
Yeah.
So it's like an epic week of foiling and downwinding. The forecast looks amazing. James and I are here for roughly 9 days, and on the off days we're doing stuff like this, like catching up with you, and we're also coaching a few people. So we caught up with the foil shop yesterday just to pop our heads in and just show face and get frothy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, we're pretty excited. 4 races in like a week, pretty well. Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday, Thursday. So today's race day, one of the race days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's frothing to be here.
It's a cool experience, hey, having like multiple races back to back.
Totally.
Especially all as they're kind of similar distances. With basically the Sunset Series are kind of a repeat.
Yeah.
So I guess you get like to try again. If it all goes wrong, you have another shot.
I think today we might have some interesting conditions with the ribbon weed coming in, but I think I've never raced in that type of conditions before, because I think I've been to Perth now maybe 4 times downwinding, and I've always had amazing conditions, no weed, and I've heard like from you guys it can get bad, but
and it has.
The northwesters blew, and then it was westerly all last night. Went for a swim this morning, and it was as the local boys call it, a mare.
Yeah, it is a mare.
It's hardcore. Hey, yesterday was like we did a 10k run, and I reckon I did 30 paddle ups, and it's just like the bumps are there, it's firing, but it's just like you've got a handbrake on. It's literally like you left the handbrake on in the car and you're trying to drive fast.
Yeah.
But
I kind of, in a sick way, kind of like it. Not like
I feel like you like it if you come for like a couple of weeks and you're like, yeah, sweet, this is a new challenge.
It's a new challenge, but I would hate to live all the time. But like it's like the foil, we were chatting earlier, the foil choice is like I averaged 16.5 k's an hour yesterday for a 10k run. And only the last 3 k's did I stay on foil for like the whole time. Every other time I wasn't doing a k on foil. So I had to stop or bunny hop or turn to try to get the weed off. But this shouldn't scare people from WA race week.
No, not at all. No.
It isn't always like this. We just got unlucky with the conditions, and I'm almost certain it's going to clear. Yeah. Not for this afternoon, but for the other 3 races.
Yeah. If we do get clear, and it looks like we're getting some good wind in as well, so it could actually end up being really good. And I actually would love to discuss what foils you guys are thinking of using, because it's such a gamble and it's so hard to pick. In some ways, it's best to just go big, and so you can carry the weed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we were chatting this on the way here, and Josh's like, I don't know if I should use a big one, or we'll chat maybe the S series because a little bit less span.
That's what I've been thinking too, actually.
Yeah, but I think it's depending on how bad it is. You just want to be up on foil and like be able to plough through it, because you're not avoiding it. Even if you use a tiny foil, you're not going to avoid it. And if you do hit it with a tiny foil, you're down.
Yeah.
So I used the 1075 yesterday, and I wouldn't have wanted to be on something smaller.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So
as long as you can paddle up, like as soon as you come down, I think. It also depends on like what we're going to get this afternoon. Like yesterday, it was 10 knots, like 12 knots.
Yeah, and it was
there'll be a bit of wind this afternoon.
Yeah, it should be windy. So I'm thinking it's really going to depend. I think I'm going to leave it right up to the last second. But I started thinking like tactics, like a foil that's maybe not as high aspect, so it's not as much wingspan to catch weed. Same with the tail. But yeah, like what James said, you kind of want to be able to ride a foil that can ride with weed on it.
Yeah.
Like that's the tactic, I think. because you don't want to ride something so high performance as soon as it gets like one blemish, like a little ribbon weed on it.
Yeah,
you don't want it to mess you up. So yeah, maybe a tank.
Well, last year, what do they call it, the Mayor's Cup? That was pretty weedy.
Oh, that was the most weedy race I've ever done. I think we were both on 860s that day.
And that was like the 860 was. It was hard.
It was hard. Dan picked the 960, which was probably a better choice.
In hindsight, I reckon the 960 probably, or even the 1075 last year might have been better. But if the bumps are on, then it's like you could get a dream run and dodge the weed on a 770, and you could have a hell time. You know, but then if you get one bit of weed, or if you get stuck in because there were patches. You know, if say there was patches of weed, and you was like all of a sudden, the next kilometre was full of weed. Yeah. And I don't know. Roll the dice, which is why I think it's exciting. You know, because the thing with Hawaii was like, as Edo deserved to win, but he won every race because he was the best, and it's like, I don't know, like it's exciting because he's the best, he's trained for it, but also, I don't know, like it's like surfing, you get a good wave and you're in with a shot, you know, and so all of a sudden
you pick a good line,
you might go a little bit further out, a little bit further in, then there's a patch with no weed, and all of a sudden someone's come from way back and they've won it, and that's exciting. You know, it sort of sucks for the training and whatnot you put in, but you create your own luck, and I don't know, I think it's just like mix it up a little.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys have brought like this positivity back. This morning I kind of went down, I was like, no.
Nah, racing's exciting. Like honestly, I think having it not perfect is what makes it exciting, and anxiety makes nerves, and nerves is what makes racing exciting. Yeah, so who do we need to look out for?
No, what we need to do is we need Belly, one of the guys I go with all the time. He would friggin' smash it, but he doesn't like the weed, so we got to try convince him to come out, and then we'll.
Oh, he won't race if there's weed.
Nah, he's not keen on it. So yeah, but it is a bit of the problem with weed is kind of a pump fest. That's like what happens at the end of the day. You got to work hard.
From racing in Hawaii, even you get most perfect conditions, it's still a pump fest. Yeah, which is what. Like, that's why I'm excited for it, because we can get away with a big foil today, and it's a pump fest, but it's easier to pump a big foil than a small foil. So I think, I guess foil racing is going to become more and more and more of a pump fest unless we come up with different formats, in my opinion. Yeah. And I think there's different ways to do that, and I don't want to, you should have to pump for a race, because we are trying to go as fast as we can, and to go as fast as you can, you're going to use a smaller foil as you can, and there needs to be that aspect of it, but it's not for everyone. So I think different formats are important, which is why I see weed as a different format.
It is.
You know, it's different. Like if you have nuking conditions and the bumps are going faster, then we're just going to use smaller foils, and we'll still be pumping.
The one thought that I have as opposed to using a bigger foil is I've been practicing trying to do the jumps going downwind, and I reckon the one foil that I can land it on consistently, probably like 75% of the time now, is the 850. So I'm almost thinking maybe that won't pick up too much weed, and I could clear it potentially.
Well,
but
as a competitor of yours, I'm going to say use the 850.
It either goes well or it's awful. Like you will not. And that's
the beauty of it. Like you could have the weed might clear in the hour before the race, because it's not till this afternoon at 5 o'clock.
We don't know. You don't know.
You don't know until we're out. Then you could do a run before, and then the weed can just get pushed onto shore, or currents can take it, and you could literally take a small foil and ace it and smoke everyone by 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or you could not finish. Literally.
Yeah. The other thing I'm pretty excited to see is how the community's grown this year. I know last year it was starting to grow, but this year it's just boomed here in Perth. There's so many people now doing it, and also lots of people doing it really well. So yeah, it'll be cool to see people coming down and racing, and also hopefully the fun run, we could get a lot of people coming down, which would be really awesome to see.
Yeah, I think we have about 10 people from Sydney that's come over. Yeah. Jake's just opened up a WhatsApp group with all the Sydney guys, and it's about 10. And would you say there's at least 50 people that are racing from here?
Yeah, maybe not quite 50.
Okay.
Not 50 racing, but I know there's a big group chat here in Perth now that's got about 75 people in it.
Wow.
And that's not everyone. So I'm guessing there's about 100 people probably downwinding now here in Perth.
That's incredible.
Who knows how many of those people are going to be keen to race. Haven't looked at the numbers yet.
I was chatting to Josh about this yesterday, but as when it's only 20, say it's one group.
Yeah.
As it goes to 50 to 75 to 100, there becomes offshoots of it, and there'll be people that I'm not fast enough to race. I don't want to embarrass myself compared to others, and then it becomes not cliquey, but it becomes I don't want to do that and be the slowest, and that's where there's that's why like the king of the cutback, I think I spoke about last time on the podcast, like the slowest kilometre, the fastest kilometre.
Yeah, we should try
the most distance for the fun run. I think.
Yeah, let's do it in the fun run. Yeah. Let's set up something like that.
Yeah, so that everyone's a winner and everyone gets appreciated. So like there could be people going out there trying to go as slow as possible, and they get awarded for that. Like that's you can win, and if you go for the most distance, you can get rewarded for that. If you go for the least distance, you get rewarded for that. So I don't know. It's just like instead of having, which is like racing is the easiest to make is just start, finish, first cross the line wins. We can create a slowest across the line wins because they've been out there longer. It's harder, so like, and you got to celebrate that. And that, like, the sense of community that we've had the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years in Downwind Falling has been unreal. And I'm worried that as it grows, it's going to become less and less because it gets cliquey and there's you look at the surf ski guys and they're just like if they're not winning, they're just going to stop, because or if they're not beating their mate, then like, oh, I'm just going to change sports. We've got to keep the fun in it. And I think the fun in it is like a race shouldn't be just a race. It's a fun run. It's a community event. We're all getting together. We're doing a run. There's not many times that I've done a run other than the races where there's like 100 people on the start line. And we need to celebrate that because that's cool. It's really cool.
I just had a crazy idea that you could do like some team relay where you have to race downwind but then shuffle back up. Like it includes car racing and then you know what I mean? If it's you and your mate, you got 2 cars.
Logistics.
And like, the logistics, you have to find parks quickly, then race back out and your mate does the next run.
You
and
can
then
undo the screws quickly.
Yeah.
So like, how quickly can you?
Yeah, and then you got like
right on the roof.
Can you imagine like 3 cars driving up and 3 4-boards falling up?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It'd be great, except I think there'd be like a danger on the road.
Yeah, for sure.
No, what we should do is a prone one, right, with the scooters. We've been doing that in Perth.
Oh, that'd be
recently,
hilarious.
So I don't know if you guys should definitely give it a shot while you're here. It's tricky with the weed because obviously you can't come back up again, but we basically catch a scooter from like City Beach or Scarborough and then you can go
on the footpath.
Yeah, you go on the footpath. I mean, maybe it's more dangerous to be honest, but you chuck it over your shoulder and you head back up because that would be a fun one to do.
But it's just about creating that sort of, that sense of teamwork, community, camaraderie.
Keeping it fun and light.
Yeah, fun.
That's what it is.
Because it gets to... I remember a couple of years ago, Josh, you're like, oh, no, I'm not a race guy. And I think you've seen that, like, the races is just us all getting together and community downwind. It's just a fun run.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, the guys who think they're going to win are going to take it more serious, and the guys that are not. But you'll have battles, with people that are around you, and that's what it's about. So, yeah.
No, I think the best thing about the races is bringing people together and like kind of celebrating the sport. It's exploded so quickly that
totally. Yeah. And in saying that, I've timed with this race week because I knew there was going to be so many foilers in town. A movie that I made of James. It's called Game Face. It's a short film that shows what it's like being a father and also a professional athlete and kind of the tricky kind of balance that you have to withhold to maintain, your relationship with your family and being a good father, but then also trying to be the best at the sport of downwind foiling. And it kind of shows a backside of, I think, James's private life that he was nice enough to let me in on. Yeah. And I hope it inspires because I know a lot of the people that foil are family men and kind of show that it can be done. Like, you can do both. You don't have to like neglect one and then do the other. So we're premiering the film here in Perth on Sunday the 24th. Probably by the time this is out, it'll be done. But after that, I'll put it up on YouTube. And thanks to Code Foils, they've let me kind of run with the project, which is pretty cool. Awesome. And this is my first film that I've created. So it was nerve-wracking showing you before, actually. No, you're the first audience besides my missus. Yeah. But, it was cool.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, we just watched it here. I assume by the time this podcast comes out, a couple people in Perth, and maybe it'll be available on YouTube by the time you listen. But, it was really cool to watch. And I definitely feel like you could feel both of your personalities through it in some way. Like, Kui, you got the really, like, the way you film is pretty unique, I think. And like using the lav mics was pretty cool. And then James, it was great to get that insight into your life that you might not get otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not nervous, but it's like it's interesting to see how people take it, because I wouldn't say I'm like, obviously I'm not the standard like family man because I work for a foil company, I coach foiling, and I love competing in the foil races. And like, you say professional athlete, but foiling. I got my first paycheck from a foiling race the other day, $500.
Yeah.
Sunny Coast race that Dave West and Trent and Tibby put on. So, professional foil at the moment it's a new sport.
Yeah.
And we're, excited to see how it's received. But Kui did a great job, and Harry too, Harry Lee.
Yeah. Harry did a lot of the filming in it. It was all filmed during the Kawakai race series in Hawaii this year in 2024, and it kind of just shows his journey of tackling all those races, and then because it was the first time you've left your family at home for such a long period.
Yeah, well, exactly. I last year I had Lana and Kobe come over with me, and this year we had my youngest Olive. She's only 8 months now, and in Hawaii she was 3 months, and it was to leave them at home was
that's hard. That's
hard.
Tricky. That's what I like take my hat off, because you've got an amazing wife that lets you do that. And like she's supporting your passion and your job at the end of the day. And I think it's unique, because a lot of people wouldn't take the dive into doing that, or even ask their wife, because they feel like it's maybe some might see it as selfish, but like I think that it's not. I honestly don't think it's selfish. I think she's supporting your passion at the end of the day. That's bringing in the dollars as well, but like obviously you don't want to be away from your family. I could see that you didn't want to be away from your family. In a perfect world it'd be amazing if they could follow you around.
I was literally like, even when we found out we were pregnant, which was we actually found out we were pregnant the day before I flew to Molokai 2023.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I talked about in the film like how I didn't have the stress and the weight on my shoulders last 2023 was because like that. We've been trying to have a second for 6 months, and it was what was happening. And then like the day before I flew over to Hawaii, to Molokai rather, from Oahu, we found out, and it was like,
you had something else in your mind.
I'm like, it doesn't even matter what happens in the race. Honestly, that's how I felt. I said to them, I already feel like I've won Molokai because we've like conceived another child. So it's like that was
what a year
that was. Whereas, and then you fast forward, and I'm over there just for racing, and I'm all the pressures. Well, I put the pressure on myself, but I'd won the year before, so then I'm coming 7th and 9th and 11th, and I'm like, I feel like I should have just stayed at home with the family, in some ways. But like compared, like from people asking, what happened this year? And I'm like, foiling's come a long way in a year, and like I'm stoked with my results, but foiling has changed a lot in a year. Yeah. And the discussion we just had before about the formats, that's one of the reasons that like I'm seeing it heading one direction. And I'm worried from my days in sup racing and seeing surf ski and outrigger racing that it'll go one way and it'll become this really less welcoming race community. And I want it to be the same camaraderie that we're having at the moment in races and fun runs and just local shuttles. Yeah. So, I think it's...
That's such a key bit of information that you didn't tell me until after I made the film. That he found out that he was having a kid the day that
I did tell you.
No, you told me after I made the film, and I was just like, that is huge information.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, imagine finding that out, and then that day you win Molokai to Oahu. Like, what a crazy high.
That was for the 2023
I know,
film.
but it's just... I know, we didn't make that film, but like... No, but that's like... That's just... I think that's such an awesome story.
Then,
Yeah.
But that was like the pressure, which I guess I probably get you right. I should have said it, but that was huge.
But that's like a strong underlying tone through the short film, is that like it's so like there's a lot of work that goes into getting to these races. Like the race is hard, no doubt about it. But like getting there, the time off, the time that you put into all this training, it sucks a lot of your time out of everything, And like it's trying to maintain work, your family life, but then also doing as much as you can to train for these races. It's a tricky balance, and I just wanted to show that it can be done, and I think James does it in a really good way. If I've been around his house so many times now, and he is a family man. His family comes first, but he's just got such a good balance on it that I just really wanted to showcase that in the film.
How do you maintain that balance? Are there conscious things you're doing? It's just trying to grab at all these pieces and free ends and bring it together.
I'm lucky enough that like in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I've basically quit my normal job, which I was working as a meteorologist, and I quit my job, and I was able to pursue like stand-up paddle racing, and then foiling.
How recently did that happen? That was
well, the racing, I guess probably I'm saying 4 years because I'm thinking that's foiling, sort of the coaching.
Okay,
but before that, probably 8 years ago, I was still working like as a meteorologist. I did climate science at university. So that was like, and I did that because I like wind and waves. So it was like But like 8 years ago, I quit my job as a meteorologist, and a guy asked me, do you want to coach me like for stand-up paddle racing? And I was like, wow, let's do it. And it sort of just evolved from that. Now I'm doing foiling, foil coaching and foil racing, and own a foil brand. And it's just like passion has become, my job. And I still awesome. I'm still stoked to say that I'm still passionate about my job, because a lot of times you do that and then you're like, oh, because I don't want to talk about foiling again. Like if you see people burn out. But the whole balance with the family, like because Lana sees that is like what I live and breathe. And if I do well in a race, it's better for my work and the brand and everything. So I literally spoke about buying a second car a week ago because I'm like, it's just, I don't want to put the family out because we get nor'easters and southerlies at home. You can literally drive up, drop a car, and then downwind back home, and then 2 days later when the wind changes, you can go pick up the car. Right. And I was like, if there was a $3,000 van going, and it was like a steal. There's nothing wrong with it, and you could beat up, but you just leave it in the salt anyway. And you can just leave the car and I was like, I might do this. She was like offended. She's like, what?
I'm not good enough.
Am I not good enough? I'm like, well, like if the kids have to sleep, or she's like, no, just throw them in the car. Like they're sweet. They're so good in the car. Yeah. And we've sort of cultivated that in some ways. Even the first big drive that Kobe did was down to Bawley Point when I did the world record foil, 200 Ks, and I don't know, they're good in the car, which is lucky. Yeah. Well, we've created that. But she gets it, and she's super supportive, and like when she's on mat leave especially, she's down. She like it's something to do to get the kids out of the house. And okay, it's a windy day, nothing else is going on. Yeah, let's go to wherever you got to go, and we'll do a little beach day at the other end.
What are her thoughts on foiling personally? Did she ever like have any interest in doing it, or has she?
Yeah, so she's toe foiled like behind a boat, like in the harbour. Never really pushed on with it, and then she's been pregnant or with breastfeeding or whatever for the last 2.5, 3 years. So. But she's spoken about she's keen to get on the foil drive.
Yeah, Barrett said she'll do the foil drive this summer.
We should get the girls to do that. Cool. Get the foil drive going, and I'm keen to get her into it, but I'm also wary,
There's the car drops get more complicated.
If she wants to, but nah, she's it's good. I just like the balance is everything.
That's awesome.
Like she's my youngest is 8 months now, so she's starting to get a bit easier, and she's starting to do stuff for herself like Pilates and F45 and just like lots of little stuff for herself. And like a month ago I'm like, you're doing a fair bit of training, like am I going to be able to get out for some training sessions soon? Just sort of staring her up, and she's like we're not keeping count, but how many shuttles have I given you? No, I don't know, it's just. But,
I mean, I feel like I actually have a bit of a funny story about like the way you're managing stuff, James, because we just did like the coaching announcement recently. Yeah. I remember I was on a call with you, and you were talking about like how we're going to go through like the online coaching stuff, and you said to me like, so instead of going home and scrolling through reels, you should hop on the Coach Casey and like review all the people's videos. I was like, didn't know who to feel like offended if you thought I was just scrolling on reels all the time, or like
that's everyone. I do that as well.
But I guess it's all those minutes that add up, maybe, if you're thinking about those kind of things, to have the time to balance the kids, doing all the coaching, racing, training.
I'm as guilty as anyone for scrolling. We all waste time. Procrastinate on social media, but I don't know, you gotta be up. You gotta have your finger on the pulse.
Definitely.
It's a tricky one, because like you can scroll, which is, I feel like, especially me, like I do marketing. You need to know what's happening out there, and like if you're one of those people that like doesn't want to touch their phone, like you can't be a marketing guy if you're not going to touch your phone. You need to know what the other brands are doing, what's hot at the moment, who's a new top rider coming through. But it's lethal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
addictive.
Biggest time sapper.
Yeah. But it's exciting time, like how you were saying before, how we can kind of steer the ship of where all this is going. And like I see that super exciting. Like we've kind of, you know, put our heads together to think of like a few different ways of how to make money out of foiling and stuff, and it's all so fresh, and I feel like, you know, it's super exciting because even like this race week, it's technically not a foiling race week, right? It's a ski race thing, but like, you know, all these foilers are tagging onto it, and then you know, I thought it was a great opportunity to put this movie night on, and it's just like, I feel like if we need to, I kind of think that we need to not rely on these ski races and have our own kind of federations set up. I was talking to Gage in Hawaii the other day, and he was saying like how we really need to get this tour thing happening, and like, you know, not rely on like other, like use obviously races with history like M2O and stuff, but like have our own kind of federation, because he was saying that the M2O this year, there was like way more foilers than any other division, right?
Yeah.
But we got like the least love. There's like no M2O rap video of foiling. Like, where did everyone's money go that entered the race? Like, it's not a cheap race. Like, I'm not saying they didn't do a good job. They did a great job. But like, I'm just curious, like, if all these races are so expensive, like insurances or whatever, but like, I feel like if it was foilers managing these things, it would be more being put back into the community / race versus like, oh, we got all these foilers giving us money to enter this race. Oh, sweet, we're just going to make heaps of money now. But like, they're not. The love might not be there as much. So
I really hope it isn't like that, and that, you know, the race organisers, like, and I totally agree. But also, we got to support those races because they've got the history, but also they're doing it right now. And at the moment, the other option is, at least in Australia, is no one. You know, there's no one. Oh, you know, Dave, and you've done it like a race, and starting to become more and more of it. Like it's more legit now, but it's like to have official races that are happening on certain times. Like, it's a logistical nightmare, to be honest. Like, there's a lot that goes. Even just sitting back, you think like to have the amount of time to organise something like that is a big. It's a thankless task, and we have to support the race organisers who have put their hand up and to do it. And obviously, like, you expect that there's something like a good product come out of it, but also, what I was trying to say, like, they've got. I expect them to take some money. You know, they have to take some money, but it's like, how good a product afterwards are they producing? And it's like, is it growing the sport, or is it just like, you know, sapping the energy out of the sport? Yeah. And that's why you know. Can I just ask a bit about the New South Wales Foiling Club? Like, is that something? I think I saw a message the other day saying that you've got permission to do a couple. We got insurance now, so we can have 4 competitions in New South Wales next year. Right. So that's awesome. We're going to start off. Haven't announced it yet. This is probably the first time it's going to be said, but like, I'm going to do the race in January that I did last year, Northern Beaches Downwind race. We're setting it on, I'm pretty sure it's like the 18th of January, and we're going to have that as a set date. There's no window this time, and if there's no wind, we're going to do a surf comp, or we're going to do, if there's no waves and no wind, we can do like, you know, dock start or something. Yeah, flat water paddle ups to the point and back. I had a good chat to Lisa the other day, and like, even like if there was a leftover northeast wind spell, or even if there was good northeast wind, and you do a downwind run A to B, I love this idea of a format. Is like, you can just sort of get, you know, normally for a downwind race there's boat support, jet ski support. So if, say, you know, 50 people turn up and everyone does the race, after the race 20 people still keen to compete and do something else because there's time in the day, you could literally get the jet ski to take, you know, 5 people out, and you can do like a 1 kilometre race around some markers. It's going to be super exciting to watch, like a slalom kind of course. Like, think border cross, but for foiling. You know, so and then, you know, say the top person goes straight into the final, then there's like a repechage or something, and you could, like, it'd be, I don't know, if there's no wind, like, that's an option. And if there is wind and we want to test the format anyway, that's an option too. Yeah. And obviously, you know, Josh is organising, not me, but it's like, the ideas is like, I don't know, there's just, foiling is endless potential. For this for the formats, and where, you know, A to B is the most simple, but it's not that hard to come up with other ideas and set different little tweaks to make it. I wouldn't say it's going to be more fun, but it'd be bloody good to watch, I reckon. You know? Like, I've learned from, like, because I went to Florida at the start of this year for that FSLR race, and I think one of the best things about that event was that
everything was able to be watched from shore, which made it like a super exciting. And I think I spoke to Gage the other day, and he said one of the best things about that French race was that dock starting thing, because he goes, I don't know if you've seen behind all the docks, literally the whole town came to the harbour, and he said it was like an amphitheater.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like he said there was like at least 200 people watching, and he's like, I think that's
the pressure
the pressure, but also like that's what the sport's about. There's no point doing these sports if like no one can watch it. Like you got the bragging rights, you beat the guy next to you, but it needs to be documented. It needs to be media. It needs to be like the public watching it, because or else sponsors won't sponsor it.
Yeah.
Like if no one's watching the race, then you're not going to get any money for it.
But how many times have we like been surf foiling or downwind foiling, and people watch you come in like, oh, that looks unreal. Like, how does it work? How do I get into it? And like, you never see that person again most of the time.
Yeah.
But if you have an event, like people are more interested at home to watch a foiler foiling in the waves or downwind than they are a surf ski or a surfer in the waves. Because you're up for longer and you're above the water and you look, it's like amazing.
And you're going faster.
And you're going faster. So it's like we need to tap into that. And that's the whole idea. Like have it all closer to shore, even if it's like a shore runner. And I don't know. But
I think the surf foil competitions have a lot of potential too, particularly in places where you can view it or from the beach. Like that seems, you could definitely, I don't know, I haven't really actually been to the beaches around Sydney and stuff, but I have this vision that you could definitely have a big amphitheatre of
for sure.
watching.
Yeah, where Jimmy is perfect place for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing that one in January that we're hoping to get kicked off really soon, because it's like only probably 6 or 7 weeks away from it now.
Yeah.
Do Zane's comp up at Point Plummer, and then
which would be another place to be cool to do the race form. Like,
totally.
The surf race format is epic, and I think I love the Florida one, but I just think the run from the beach puts people off somehow.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like if you had like a point break and you had a race from from the top of the point down to the bottom of the point,
and then have to run back up.
Even like not even a run, just have it in the water. Like, when most people foil, you usually paddle back out, or So like, and that's you got to go around a course. Anyway.
We can keep going on all the different formats.
Yeah.
But and then I think we're gonna try do Merimbula, because they all have to be in New South Wales, because we got the insurance for New South Wales. And then potentially, I don't know, I think the fourth one's just kind of open to whoever wants to kind of throw an event on.
Cool.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Events, they're a nightmare to organise. A lot of work goes into it, and at the end of the day, like, that one I did at the start of this year, I didn't get paid a cent. I just put all the money back into it. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. And that's why I think when Dan said to me the fun run thing, and I think he was trying to like give it to me, and I was like, I don't have time to do that. And he was like, okay, I'll do it with you. And I was just like, but I think it's good for you local guys to do it, because it's your area, the local crew, and you know this place better than anyone. So
I think just on that fun run, we'd initially envisioned it to be more of like a slalom race course thing, but then I went round to Dan the other day. He gave me a call and goes, Hugh, this is going to be a lot of work if we want to put this on. We've got a week and we haven't sorted anything. And so, I walked around I went round to his place. He's sitting, I don't know if you've ever worked with Dan before, but he's a machine. He was there like typing up. He goes, let's just put the post out right now. Starts typing on his computer. While he's typing with one hand, he gets out the other hand, and his voice recording, he goes, send a message to this person, blah, 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 blah. Typing on the computer furiously. Yeah, it was multitasking at its finest with Dan. But
serious dad logistics going on there.
Yeah, you could probably relate to that too.
I could learn a bit from him, I think.
I actually wanted to talk, Josh, about doing the surf downwind competitions that you've been doing on YouTube.
We were supposed to do that yesterday.
Yeah, I was like, I want to challenge you, Josh.
No, it's something that, like, I don't know, I just feel like I do a lot of traveling, and like after James kind of put out into the ether that, like, let's try create these different formats, I was kind of just like, why don't we do, everyone's got a drone these days, do like a minute run or whatever, 3-minute run, surf as hard as you can, and then let the public decide who's ripping the hardest. And it was kind of interesting, because that one that I did with Jacko in Hood River, a lot of people kind of disregarded what the surfing was, but were just more hating on like, oh, you're on a four drive, it doesn't matter. And then I was just like,
it's harder.
Exactly. It's literally harder to surf with a four drive, because the pod's going in and out. Like it probably takes more skill to not have the pod going in the water than just going in and out all the time. So it was interesting seeing that, but it kind of got received really well. Like, got a lot of comments, a lot of people saying, I think at the end of the day, it was like a 50-50 split of people saying like, oh, Jack or Josh. But I really enjoy making all these like kind of YouTube videos, and it was just like another idea of trying to showcase downwinding, because I think a lot of people, they can imagine it, but they don't actually know what's going on out there. They're just like, oh, that sounds so cool, like out in the ocean, just like traversing from one place to another, but visually they might not have seen it. And like, because a lot of people think when I say that I've downwinded for 60 kilometers, they think that I'm literally pumping for 60 kilometers, and I'm like, no, like you literally like, you're making mistakes if you're pumping. Like, you literally should just be surfing for 60 kilometers. If the conditions are bad or you chose the wrong foil, like maybe you're pumping, but no, for like a majority of those runs, I am literally just having a ball for like 3 hours, like
which is what we've tried to train Josh out of for the racing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was actually, before you guys came up, I was like, I'm going to train and do these, try to lock in and learn how to go as fast as I possibly can. And then you like see a good bump, you're like, oh, that's a good one. Let's carve. And you're like, oh, that 2-minute K I was going for is now just completely blown. But I think it's a better. And it's like, it's as more people get into it and we get more into it, you just you literally click into surf mode or race mode. Yeah. And like, if there's a good kilometer or a good bump, you will keep going with that good bump and try to go for speed. Or if it slows down, it stacks up and there's a hell bowl, freaking lay into a few cutties and top turns and giddy up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's that's the beauty of it. That's Simeon's looking to do on the Flow Show later this year, is it? Like, I
don't think it's happening this year.
Not happening?
No, I don't think so. He wants to do it, but I just can't see it happening before the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, so, or in the new year, and awesome, frothing on it, I think that judging, the beauty of racing is that it's point A to point B, and it's like,
it's the most easy logistics.
Yeah, whereas, I talked about like the stats, like the King of the Cutback style, you can do the fastest kilometer. It's easy to sort of judge.
You almost need like a program, someone to you drop your Garmin file in and it spits out everything.
Exactly. You could, there'd be a tech guy who could figure that out, almost guaranteed. But then also, like any surfing, like, you look at the WSL and the number of Brazilians or Aussies or Americans that are complaining about heat scores, that's where it comes down, and like, there's no judges. There's no criteria even set for a surf foil. Like, even in yours, it's 50-50. And it just depends if you like, the way that Josh flows or the way that, Jack, sort of leans into it. And it's subjective. So that's,
which makes it more creative at the end of the day, because people will start focusing more on their style and their flow versus like just getting as fast as you can from one point to another.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because like what you said, people maybe, and I'm guilty of it. Like, I feel like I've been, for a majority of this year, trying to just learn how to go fast. And I feel like a lot of the runs these days, I'm literally just pinning it straight as much as I can. And if I have to peel off one and I have to pump for a little bit because I knew I've missed that one that just went underneath me, I'm kind of like, fuck, like, versus before, like, I wasn't even doing that. I was just always peeling off looking for a bowl to hit.
That's what I'm saying before, like, untrained.
Yeah. But then it's like, I think of the runs, a lot of the runs I do now is like, I'm not really surfing because like I'm, trying to go fast.
Yeah. And you just gotta,
it's both are fun, like, at the end of the day. Just
both are super fun.
As long as you don't, I feel like for me personally, I know if I tried to just race, I could definitely overdo it. Like, I could get bored of it in some
even
ways.
like chatting to Edo after, a couple of months after Hawaii, the race season, and even myself, like, I hadn't, after like August, I don't think the only run I did was on a 1300S, and I just surfed the whole way down the run. I literally just forgot about speed and just let's enjoy this again, because you race too much, and especially when you're racing in bad conditions, it becomes like going for a run, and like going for a run, isn't why we got in, like the cardio wise, like it's not why we got into it. You get the endorphins, but you don't get the stoke, and the stoke is what we do it. We're surfing down the coast, and when the conditions are good, going fast is sick, because you just like lock in and you're like going 30, 40k an hour max speeds, like for the 50k's an hour max speeds, and you're hanging on with your toes, and that's adrenaline. But when you're pushing hard and the bumps are like going, you're doing 3 minutes, 2:30s even, you're like, oh, I'm working here and I'm not going that quick. I'm not getting that rush that I was getting yesterday when the conditions were better. you should be surfing.
Yeah.
You know? And Zane and I actually, when Zane lived in Sydney, we used to always, like, we'd literally race for like the first couple of Ks, and if the conditions were no good, we'd stop and just start surfing.
Yeah.
Because we'd just be like, it's not a fast day. It's just like we literally film each other on our phones or the GoPros and just like film each other surfing. And it was always good when we both like agreed that it was a good day to surf because we weren't going that quick.
Yeah.
And we weren't getting that rush. So it's interesting, and I think, you know, different conditions and.
How about like surfing style? Are there certain things that you guys like? I know, Josh, I've noticed you do this really like high. Your arm is like really nice and high when you do the cutbacks. I guess that's like part of your style.
That's just, I've always had that since surfing.
Yeah,
and I think
it's almost to like do the backhand turn, right? You're like looking up at the...
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of just like, it's opening up my shoulders, and I don't know if it's, I think it might be a balance thing. I don't know. Fundamentally, maybe. It's also just like, I don't know. That's just where my body wants to put my hand. But, yeah. What do you mean? Like, let's talk about style.
Like, as in, are there things that you're doing to like have good surfing style that you're consciously thinking about? Or is it just getting the repetitions in, as in like...
Me for style is to make foiling look easy.
Yeah.
I don't want to see my nose going up, down, up, down, up, down. I want it to look like I'm flowing. I feel like when you're pumping, or like, you know, after you do a whitewash hit, like the nose goes like up and down and you recover it. I don't like that. I like to do a whitewash hit and it's bang, you just fly out of it. Like all these little things to make it look easy. Effortless. That's kind of my goal.
Yeah, and I think that the two things that I'm looking at when I'm looking at like what a good surf foiler is the style, but then also how progressive the turns are. And generally, the more progressive the turns are, the less the visually appealing the style is, because
it's about balancing.
Because it's harder. You do a big whitewater hit and you get this big explosion of energy. You get lifted up and you got to focus that back down, and you know, so if you're pushing the boundaries more, generally your style is worse. And if you don't push enough, then your progressiveness is, you know, your criticalness of your turns is worse. And like we've seen Alex Hayes and you know, Oscar and Jeremy and Bennett's, like they're like Bennett's probably, to me, still probably has the best balance of, you know, style and progressiveness. I think Alex, I'm thinking Aussies at the moment, but Alex, like his style isn't as good as Bennett's, I don't think, but he's more progressive. Yeah, like he's doing
aggressive.
Yeah.
No, it's epic.
It's
like
exactly
he puts his body on the line. Like
that's
good.
Yeah, and then even like Noah Flegel, like he's doing like freaking backflips, like
for sure.
Like not kickflips, but pretty close to kickflips.
Like shove-its and stuff.
And then Oscar, I think Oscar, like compared to you know, Alex is Oscar and Jeremy, I feel like, are very flowy. You know, they got like, and they got a good
power. You can see like it's like a powerhouse cuddy type thing. Yeah.
So anyway, it's super interesting, and I think it's a good question, because how do we judge this? And like, if it was haven't even mentioned Zane, but Zane's probably the ultimate power surfer in foiling. You know, like his flow, I think, is unbelievable, and his just body mechanics, the way he goes about it, is just like, it just looks effortless. You know, and then the turns he's doing obviously isn't an Alex Hayes sort of style turn, but I always push him. I said, man, you hit the whitewater on that one, mate, you know, because he's always going so fast, you know, and the power he can generate, like the big cutties he's doing, look more impressive than the flicks that Alex Hayes is doing, because of the speed and the power and the flow and the style that he's got. I think everyone can agree with that. Like, Zane's incredible to watch.
That was a good video, I think, Josh, where you were filming him from the beach. I don't know what you said behind the camera.
Oh yeah, I was like, hit it, you bitch.
Because he's always going so fast. It's like, if he was to hit that, it's going to be way more aggressive than what Alex Hayes is doing. You know, so it's like, it's really interesting, because like, I guess realistically, you go back to surfing, speed, power, flow, and if you're going at speed, you got more power. But it's harder to be more critical and progressive, like flow wise. So
I don't know if I totally agree with that. Like, I think Alex is like, he's definitely got some big cutties on him.
Oh, for sure.
But I know what you mean. It's like,
I guess his highlight reels are like, I'm amazed at the stuff he's doing in the lip.
Yeah.
And like, even he's doing airs, like strapless airs, and that's, to me, is what Alex is known for. Whereas Zane is more known for his calves.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's like generalizing.
Yeah. Yeah, Zane would be like a Mick Fanning. Yeah,
whereas Alex is like a Italo.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And like, not to say that Italo can't do calves, and Mick can't do airs, because they both can do it, but what they're known for.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. No, I think also for me, it's the read on the ocean. For me, that's impressive. And I think downwind, like not surfing, but like downwinding, it's impressive your read. Like I think you're seeing things that 99% of people can't even see. Like, and that's the key to going fast too. He's tapping into things that, like, you know, I don't know if he's seeing it or if he's just feeling it or if he knows the pattern of it.
Well, sometimes you trick yourself and think you see it, so you go faster for it and then it appears. Honestly,
yes.
Sometimes it's a mental thing. Like you dangle the carrot or the imaginary carrot out in front of you. There's going to be a good bump there, and you just race to it, and then sometimes it does eventuate.
For me, a lot of that was when I hopped on code, just not ever knowing the speed and the glide of what a foil can do. There's a lot of things that I would like, you know, I'd see it in front of it, I won't get there, so I'd peel off. And then ever since I got on the code, like especially the R series, and then you just like aim for it and it kind of looks away from you, but then all of a sudden you're on top of it and then going down it and you're like, whoa, I just fully overtook that thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I think new foils in general, obviously the first time I felt it was with the code stuff, the R series in particular. First time I used it was here in Perth. And the first time I used the 770, I said to Marcus, I think it turns too good for a race foil.
Yeah.
But the first thing, like in terms of up and overs, I noticed is like if this is our bump, normally we're going this way, normally you feel the energy when you get over the top of it and go down it.
Yeah.
But with the newer higher aspect foils like the R series and everything else that's come since, and other brands, is that you actually get to the backside of it on the top, like almost here at the back, you'll actually feel lift. It's like the water, and Matt Costa's talked about it before, there's like a upwelling of energy up the top, and you'll actually feel it, and it encourages you to go up and over. Whereas on older foils, it's like you couldn't tap into that.
yeah, right.
So it's like you're getting energy from 25%, the top 25% of the uphill.
Yeah.
Whereas before you weren't until you got over the hump.
That's super interesting to say that. I you know, it's like one of those things that I think I've thought about but never like heard said out loud. Yeah. Especially I find it with like littler bumps coming through, as in you might be going through kind of like a flat patch, but there might be like a little bump and you really feel yourself get lifted like over it.
Yeah.
I don't know if
it's like, and it lifts you up and like gets your foil up and moving.
Yeah.
And I think
it's like catching an updraft almost.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, the new foils, like it's a blessing and a curse, I think, because what we saw in the racing this year, especially because conditions were epic, was that we could use really small foils without coming down. And by using a small foil and not coming down, we're going a lot quicker, but we're pushing super hard to be using, you know, a small foil, but we're rewarded because we're going faster. But in terms of like a surf event, I'd hate to be using that same small foil I use for Molokai for a surf event, because one, I've got in terms of style, I'm not making it look effortless. You know, I'm making it look bloody hard, you know?
Yeah, we're actually commenting about that while watching the short film. You can tell that your legs are cramping.
There's a point where I literally slap my back leg's thigh and I'm like, oh, like I remember that feeling, and I was like, I never paddle and pump when I'm like up on foil and like going pretty well, but I remember about 40 Ks in, my leg just started to give up and I couldn't literally pump, like bend down and extend. So I had to use the paddle to do the pumping motion for me instead of my legs.
Well, and tell us about the performance enhancers you were taking halfway through the run.
Yeah.
What?
You told me that you were popping Voltarens halfway through
it. They weren't helping.
There was some fear in that look.
I thought that was hilarious, because I called him, like, because I wasn't able to get to Hawaii this year for the races, and I remember I called him because I wanted to see how he went, and he was like, mate, I was so sore. He goes, I had Voltaren halfway through the race, and like, that just made me laugh so much, because it was funny that you even just had it in your life jacket ready to go.
So from the SUP days, and my dad used to be like an Ironman triathlete, so he did like Kona Ironman, and he always instilled in me, he's like, make sure you bring painkillers, because this is a race, this isn't fun, you know. So he's like, so I remember the first Molokai I did, Dad handed me this like little canister. It was like an Ironman canister, and it was like waterproof, so you could put instead of popping them out of the packaging, you could have it in there and just sort of take it. So he's like, you got to take some sort of pain relief when you're out there, because you know you got to make pain your friend, kind of thing.
Wow.
So
that's hardcore.
I've always taken something, because I used to have a really bad knee when I paddled the SUP, because you're stationary or you're static for like 4 or 5 hours, and I used to get like a shooting pain under there, and you just take a Voltaren and in 15 minutes it'd be gone. So for Molokai I'd had two Voltarens, and probably 30 k's in. I'm like, I'm in trouble here.
Yeah.
I'll leave it halfway. So I just like whoop, took some food, and I wouldn't say they're performance enhancers, but they're like
definitely not performance enhancers. But it's
they're
just
just
so
Not performance
funny.
inhibitors either.
Yeah.
They're probably helping you push through something.
push through the
Yeah.
pain
Yeah.
enhancers. And even mentally, sometimes I think it's just like if you think you've taken something, it's gonna
Placebo
Yeah.
for
it's all
sure.
placebo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
What else are you carrying with you for those races? Is it just gel shots? Like they're only 2 to 3 hours long, so
Yeah, it's so different compared to the SUP days, and I feel like I had it dialed for the SUP, and for Molokai it was what, 2.5, 3 hours. So realistically, like in terms of racing, the first hour you get for free, so you don't need it. You shouldn't need anything for a 1 hour race, basically, as long as you eat and drink beforehand.
yeah.
You know, so you shouldn't actually need anything. From 1 hour onwards, you need to start replenishing your energy stores, you know. So the old school way is carbohydrates. And so if I'm 80 kilos, I need 80 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So however you get that, you can get it through gel shots, you can get it through liquid when you're drinking, you know, you put powders in your water, or you can get it, with foiling, we got our hands free most of the time. So I just put food in I had corn chips, porridge, sometimes I use dates, like whatever you want to eat. You know, some salt and vinegar chips are just what you need, and it's just calories, it's just carbohydrates, and definitely the science has gotten better than just carbs, because you know, like the keto stuff and proteins and fats have definitely taken it to the next level, and I need to educate myself on that more. But at the moment, I do carbs, and and I haven't really, except for Molokai, I haven't really had to worry about it too much.
Well, it's interesting, probably for the Molokai, like that's a 2 to 3 hour race, basically the exact same time as like a marathon. So you could almost just copy what the marathon guys are using to do those high performance stuff. Like they've got it dialed in. I'm sure there'd be tons of research on it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So like
the only difference
Yeah,
is from a marathon, you can set a pace and you can continue the same pace the whole time. There's no external forces. When we foil and a good bump comes, you're not just going to be like, oh no, I'm on 4-minute pace, I'm just going to keep running, or I'm on 2:30 pace, I'm happy with that, I'm just going to keep running, keep my heart rate level. You want to work to get onto that bump so that you can accelerate and continue to go faster and get that little leg up. So like, this is the big discussion I had with my dad when I was doing the SUP racing stuff. He was like, oh, you just need to set a pace and stick to it. I'm like, I need to accelerate. Basically, for those that don't know, SUP racing is like paddling up every time to catch a bump. So you get on plane, then when you get off plane, it's like falling off foil, and then you got to paddle up again to get your board speed going. It's so much less efficient than foiling.
Yeah.
We are so lucky with foiling, basically. You know, I did a race in Phillippi on the last Aussie titles I did 2 years ago, and I hadn't paddled a SUP for ages, and not downwind, but the conditions were epic. And so I went in the race, and I think I got second, but I had no right to come second. Like, it was just because I could read the bumps, and it was good bumps. But every single time I paddled for a bump, it felt like a foil paddle up, and then I'd ride the bump for maybe 10, at best 30 seconds, and you'd come off the plane, oh, I got to sprint again. You know, bounce and paddle and pump and get the board up and playing again. And I'm like, man, foiling's so good, you know. And the conditions were sick. Like for a foiler, you wouldn't have come down once. But yeah, the longer, and you know, my dad was saying Ironman, you know, 15 hours, whatever it is, and they're
that's crazy.
11 hours, and they need to do, you know, they just set into a pace. I said, we're accelerating every single downhill, and then we're hopefully lowering our heart rate when we're on the bump, and then we're accelerating again. With the foil, we're doing the same thing, because we're just tapping into more stuff. You're accelerating every time you pump. You're trying to go quicker. So your heart rate is, like, if you have a really good section, you might be able to get your heart rate down. If you have a really bad section, your heart rate might spike really high. And heart rate spikes for a long endurance race is a nightmare, you know? So once your heart rate's up, it's hard to bring it back down. So basically, your heart rate's up when we foil, like, the whole time.
Yeah.
If you look at my data for freaking Molokai, I think I was at like average like 175 or something for 3 hours,
pretty
which is
hardcore.
freaking not very sustainable.
No.
Which is why my legs gave out.
Yeah.
Yeah, nutrition is a super tricky one. I've had a lot of trials and kind of mishaps happen to me, because you just got to know your body, and you only know it by pushing it to that level. And how often do we push it to that level? It's not like we do a 50-kilometer race every week.
You can't really do it either, because if you get to that level, you got to, like, the recovery is a long time. I feel like I didn't realize until I actually ran a marathon earlier this year, and like I didn't realize how far you can push your body and then it takes weeks to get back to like your baseline. And probably the same thing with doing a race like this. If you push yourself that hard, you need a long recovery to.
And that's the hardest thing. Like, these guys were pushing themselves so hard for those 3 consecutive races in the film. And, you know, the hardest one is the last one. And that's like, you know, you're probably not sleeping the best over that week, right? Because, you know, nerves, anxiety, like, you know, that zaps a lot of energy too, like the mental kind of nerves. But yeah, it's just, you need to dial all this. That's why it's training. You need to dial all this stuff in like a year before this is even happening.
Yeah, the number of people that ask me like a week before the race, what should I use for nutrition? I'm like, oh, too late now, mate.
Way too late.
Yeah, you need to be thinking about that.
And it's even like, even going to like different brands or like different ingredients, it's like you got to have all this stuff lined up, because, you know, if you get to Hawaii and you haven't brought anything, and then you go into, you know, the local chemist to get electrolytes, your body might not like those ones. It's just like, you got to be so on top of all this stuff. That's why it's like, you know, it's a legitimate sport, and like, you can't, if you want to be the best, you got to know all this stuff.
Yeah.
I got lucky. Like I've got like a lot of friends who are cyclists, and they put me in touch with this brand called Tailwind, and the guy who's like the scientist who makes it, he gave us a call, and like I told him exactly what we were doing in foiling, and he was so helpful. Like, and he kind of curated like a mix and the way you should take it, because you can buy this stuff and then not take it the right way, and it doesn't work. And like for the first, probably the first run of stuff that I bought off him, I was using it the wrong way. I wasn't putting enough in it. So I was just having like water with electrolytes in it, but not enough to make it even like worthwhile. So it's a science. And then it's like, it's not a science for, we're not all the same, all us humans. Like, it's like, you need to dial it in for exactly who you are. And I know for a fact that I'm susceptible to cramps really early compared to other people. So it's just like trying to make sure that you're doing everything right.
Yeah, and the cramps thing is an interesting one, because you know, you can cramp from 2 reasons. One is not enough salts, and the other one is
enough training.
Basically,
it's literally you're not trained enough. Yeah, that's it.
Muscle
it's
fatigue.
Muscular endurance.
Yeah. So, back to the film, like I was banging my back leg because I hadn't trained on the 680, but I was off the pace on the 770. So I used the 680 to try to keep up with the boys who were leading, and I guess predictably my legs gave out because I hadn't trained on it, you know. And it wasn't, I would say it's definitely not, it wasn't a nutrition thing, it was just a training thing. And you know, you can think you're taking the right amount of everything, but if you haven't trained enough and you're pushing your body harder than you have throughout all training, it's going to fall apart at some point. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention on the training thing is to do a 50k run at home for us is a bit of logistics. Like, and 50k's, maybe you get 2, maybe 3 hours if it's a slow run. So maybe if it's a good run, it's less than 2 hours. Molokai's 2.5, 3 hours. It's like, you know, if you're trying to get the reps in, you better have a good shuttle driver. Yeah. Like, you know, I've got a really good one, but she, you know, to get a 50k run, and she's like, really? You want to go all the way to Maroubra and back to Palm Beach? That's like 4 hours of driving crazy. For me, you know? So it's not that easy, and I've been mucking around big foils just because I'm getting more bang for my buck. I'll do a 10k run, and instead of being like on foil for 20 minutes, I'm on foil for 40 minutes, you know? And that's great because I don't have to drive as far and I'm still working the body.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
It's there's a lot that goes into like the and like obviously, you know, the gym stuff, and then even, you know, maybe you don't have to foil to do the cardio, maybe you can be running or cycling. But I love foiling, so I'll foil it. It's tricky.
Cool. Actually, I want to change tack a little bit here. So I was listening to the podcast you did, Josh, the other day, and I thought it'd be interesting to throw you under the bus a bit.
I love when we throw you under the bus.
And compare a bit of like what you said on the podcast to what you said foil driving in the foil drive etiquette video you did.
Okay.
So
I do too. Like I push the limits with it as well. Go home, grab my foiling gear, go to the beach by 4, and then like it might get dark at 5, and I just want to go out and just foil. But we can't technically go out till like 4:45 or something, or 5 or something. They want us to go out when it's pretty much getting dark. And it's ridiculous. Like, I'm just like, no, I'm not fucking foiling in the dark.
So I'll go out there and they'll come down the beach and they'll be like, oh, that foiler out there on the yellow board, come in. And I'll just like, when I hear that, I'll just like catch a wave and then pump down to the other end of the beach, and they'll run their buggy down the other end of the beach like, oh, we can see you, come in, Josh. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll catch another wave, go down the other end of the beach. And I always say to the foilers, like, what are they going to do? They're not going to freaking
Arrest you.
yeah, they're lifeguards. They're not going to arrest us.
All right, that's that one, and then this is a clip just from
The 3 key points that we need to touch on today is respect, education, and communication. Yeah, but we're not getting respect. I'm not giving it back. They need to educate themselves.
Yeah. I know it was a stitch up, like obviously they're both taken out of context.
That's
but I don't know if
hilarious,
you want to
Hugh.
elaborate
That is
on
so
it.
good.
I love that.
No, that's definitely a huge campaign. Like, so I work for Code and I work for Four Drive, and that was a campaign that, you know, I really wanted to push because it's something that it's popping its head up everywhere. Like, you know, people are getting pissed off with not only foilers but definitely foil drives because, you know, they're getting a million waves, and these people that are getting a million waves probably wouldn't if they were just regular foiling. So a lot of people are getting upset.
Yeah,
Jealous. And like, you know, I also think as well as like, you know, they might not be doing anything wrong, but I think they might be oblivious to what they're doing too. They might be like, you know, they might be a swimmer or someone just on a regular surfboard trying to get a wave, and they're just doing laps around them. And it's like, come on, give them some space, you know, or let them get a few waves. Like, you don't have to be getting every wave that comes through. I've seen it firsthand, and like, you know, I just wanted to put something out in the public that just kind of reminds people. And even if, you know, someone has an attitude like Josh in the first clip, he doesn't give a shit. At least it's kind of it puts something in their mind when they go out that maybe they are doing something that is disrespectful to someone else. So it's just like, it's just kind of spreading the message. And like, it's been a great campaign so far. Like, we've had so much good, you know, replies from it, and people like being like, well, this is so good that you guys have put this out before, you know, anything that's kind of already gone wrong. It's kind of like trying to put out a good message before trying to fix a problem. So,
I mean, I guess it's a bit like setting a precedence. Like, as a foil driver, you have, I guess you said it, like this power, or even as a foiler, you have this power where you can catch so many more waves than you ever could surfing. And
I think a lot of people are just narrow-minded. Like, they'll get a foil drive but then go out the regular spot where all the other foilers are or surfers are, and it's like, no, you can go anywhere now. You don't have to go to that one spot that everyone's at. It's like people just haven't quite used their imagination yet, and it's kind of trying to spread that idea. Jimmy did it before. He did a film like 6 months ago that was really good. And I seen on YouTube it had like crazy amount of views. It's like 100,000 views or something.
Does it actually?
Seriously, check YouTube. It's got like, I looked at it and I was like, whoa, that video went viral. Sick. Yeah.
There you go.
But that wave looks epic. That one. I want to surf that one. That
they get
cross waves. Hey.
Yeah, cross waves. And the reason I brought that out was because I coach people. There were people that were foil driving saying they were getting a bit of grief. There were people that weren't foil driving that were like not giving grief, but like expressing concern that they were just people not doing the right thing. And like Josh said, it comes from people aren't going out of their way to be dickheads.
Nah, but
you know, but what happens is when you have an advantage over someone else. And look, I surfed growing up and then learnt to sup surf when I was like 15. And I was like the black sheep because I was sup surfing and I was taking waves from everyone else. But honestly, if I was on a shortboard, I'd take more waves than I ever would on a stand-up because I was undercover as a shortboard. On a stand-up, I'm the sore thumb. You can see me. Foil's exactly the same thing. They see you up and they see you going around and you just had 10 waves, but they were 10 waves that a surfer could never even catch.
Yeah.
But because you just had 10 waves, it's not your turn now. You know, so it's a really tricky one, and there's no answer. And if the ocean is everyone's, like we share it, and it's living on Sydney's northern beaches and Josh and eastern suburbs, like there's some seriously localized areas that surfers just like they try to flex and scare you from coming back there, and it's not fair. But it's also there are so many spots. Don't feel like you're giving in because you're going somewhere else. Like just be smarter. And if they are that passionate about that spot, with foiling. Like, we don't have to be at that spot. We can literally go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think other things that I've seen, just so that we're putting this out there, is if you're going out anywhere and there's surfers around or there's like people swimming at the beach, I feel like you just have to wear a leg rope. Like, it scares me all the time when I see someone paddling out and they're not wearing a leg rope. And you just have to be so aware that that's like legitimately dangerous. Yes, you might have the skills to not stack it all the time, but all it takes is your board to get washed into one kid playing on the shore.
100%.
And
Totally.
No, I couldn't agree more. I had it when I was just first learning to foil back like 8 years ago. I went out with a mate on a stand-up. He just wanted to see how it worked.
Yeah.
I was getting a few waves and I fell off just at the wrong time and my leg rope broke. And he was on the inside at this crosswave spot and the board was flying in on foil like at him. And it was terrifying. And like I was wearing a leg rope, but the leg rope broke.
Yes.
And like ever since then I'm like, man, like I was so apologetic. It didn't hit him, like luckily it was all good. But just that vision in my mind of my board going and my board being between him and but the board between, it was going for him. It was just like, I would never want a big chunk of carbon fiber, whether it's sharp or not, doesn't even matter. It's such a big fin, you know? And it's like, for that to run into someone, it's just like, would you want that to happen to you?
No.
You know?
That's the
and
thing.
like people complain about longboarders not wearing a leg rope, and then they'll go out in a foil board and not wear one. It's like, you know, it's sure a small board's smaller, but the foil itself is bigger.
Yeah.
And it's
Just a bit of common sense in the end of the day, isn't it? It's just
common sense and respect, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's respecting everyone else around you.
That was the hardest point to push out in that campaign is I really didn't want to be like, hey, here are the rules and this is what you got to do. It was like messaging where it was like, I wanted to be like, hey, let's think outside the box.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wanted to use like nice words like communication, respect, because at the end of the day, if you point your finger and go, you can't foil drive here, but you can there, people are going to be Josh number one in that thing and be like,
why? Yeah.
Exactly. Because that's the reason. That's what they did to us at my local beach is the lifeguards said no foiling here. There's no evidence. There's no data to say that foiling's dangerous. They just said, we don't like it, so it's not happening. So I'm going the attitude now where I'm like, fuck you, I'm going out. You know, if you want to get me, catch me. But like, you know, if they came at me with a different approach where they were respectful for what I was doing, you know, if they had a thing where they were like, hey, we don't want you going out near all these swimmers here, I'd be like, totally fine. I'll go in the other corner where there's no one. But because they came at me pointing the finger, I went back with them being like, fuck you. So no, seriously. And that's just like a perfect example of how we need to approach things. And like, you know, if you come in hot to tell someone that they can or can't do something, I can guarantee they're going to get their back up and tell you, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to listen to you. Who are you? But the thing is, it's like, let's just let's put ourselves in each other's shoes. If you're doing something that you reckon you wouldn't want done to yourself, don't do it. Yeah. So it's so common sense, but a lot of people just don't have it.
It's hard in the moment because you're so, like, with the foil drive and foiling, like, I've been guilty of, like, on a foil, just like on a big foil, I just go for a pump around and I'm just like taking all the tiny little waves and, you know, there's other foilers out there, so like we can foil together. But then like there's one good section, it's the perfect section to take off on, and I'm up and going and I'm like,
I want to hit that.
I want that section, but I also know that they've been sitting there watching me for 5-10 minutes. It's probably their turn. You know, just the devil and angel thing, like I want to hit it, but also it's probably their turn. So it's like, as foiling gets more and more popular, we're going to experience more and more of that. And that's the beauty of the foil drive, is that your chip in is a squeeze of the trigger. So you don't need to be...
I think another way also to look at it is that like we're so privileged now where we can get... Literally, it's just as much cardio as you got, you can be up and riding around for ages. But if we think about back in the day where we used to have to sit all together in a pack and catch waves on a surfboard, we'd only get like 3 or 4 waves or 5 waves a session. And then even then there was like kind of like a hierarchy of who gets those waves. Even it doesn't matter how long you waited. But because we're so privileged now where we can pump around and, you know, for 10 minutes be getting whatever wave we want, it's like, hang on, we're still riding. It's like we don't need to be hitting that whitewash where people are trying to take off every time. Like, you know, if no one's there because they just got a wave, yeah, go hit it. But like if there's people there waiting to get another takeoff again, let's just, you know, go outside of them and ride the swell and peel off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, the way that doing it as in promoting those values of respect and just considering what you're doing and having the the angel in the back of your head saying, "Don't do that.
Yeah.
Let's go foil this other spot."
I think the creativity thing actually excites me because there's been so many waves and you scored.
Yeah, I know. It was pumping that day.
Yeah. Like that spot.
those shots are insane.
Yeah. And that's not uncommon for that spot to be breaking. It was good that day, but like for that to be breaking and there to be no one out there because it's hard to surf out there and it's hard to foil out there because the wave's moving quite fast.
So breaks everywhere too. Hey.
People, and it's not consistent. Whereas people tow it a lot, and the fall drive's essentially towing. You know, so we're the creativity aspect is cool because one, you get spot to yourself, you're doing something no one else has done, and you're inspiring others to do something different too. And that's the beauty, I think, of the creativity aspect of it. And like I think that's almost more important than just as important as the responsibility aspect because if you're getting creative, you almost don't even need you're being responsible by being creative, creating your own little zone.
Well, once you're out there and away from everyone, the responsibilities are basically taken off your shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to feel guilty that you're ruining anyone else's session.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although someone said to me before, and I get it, but they said visual pollution. Some surfers have complained to them that they're not stoked because you're out there pumping around and you're visually polluting their horizon.
No, that's too much.
And I'm like, okay.
So your face is visually polluting.
It's you know, they'll come up with anything, but it is something I think it's worth considering. Like if you're pumping around, you're not taking anyone's waves, but you're literally pumping around them.
Yeah, they get pissed off.
Yeah, and it's the jealousy thing. It's they will frame it as visual pollution, but it's essentially jealousy.
That's why everyone's just got a downwind.
Don't have
to worry.
I've been literally I've been out at a spot once and the guy said, "Why don't you just go out to sea?" I'm like, "There's no wind today, mate. I'd love to be out to sea downwinding, you know." And it was funny because he knew me and like I was just sort of pushing his buttons a little that day. He was like, "Go out to sea and just downwind." I'm like, "I'd love to, but there's just no bumps or wind today."
All right, I reckon we're getting hour 15. I don't know.
Nice.
So let's finish it up with a foiling story. So I don't know if you guys have. It's a bit of throwing you on the spot, but is there anything you'd love to share, like that's happened recently, or one of a crazy encounter you've had?
I'll kick off. We did a run just recently. We did it was Benny Raymond's birthday. Yep. He's a local foiler in Sydney, and we didn't know it was his birthday, but for his birthday, his 41st birthday, I think it was, he wanted to go. He organised a bus to go from Brownwater, which is our local, up to Copacabana, which is 30 k's, but like Central Coast, so it's all the way. It's an hour and a half drive. Yeah. He actually wanted to go to Nora Head, but as the group got bigger, he sort of realised that a 60k send with 10 people probably wasn't wise. Yeah. So we all met up and we found out it was Benny's birthday, and we all went up and did an epic run from Copacabana all the way into Brownwater, and like there wasn't really too much of a story other than how cool is it that like that's what he wanted to do for his birthday, just go foiling with his mates. You know, it was pretty sick, and like epic chats on the way up, and we buddied up. We had a big safety spiel because there were probably at least 5 or 6 guys that it was their longest run, and like from Copa to Palm Beach, it's literally national park, and then it's the Hawkesbury River entrance to the ocean. Like it's a sharky part of the world, but it's also your 4Ks offshore. Like if you were to come down, if something broke, you're paddling in for probably an hour. You know, so obviously things don't break hopefully too often, but if they were, it was going to be. So we had a buddy system, and everything all works fine. But it was just a cool little story that recently happened that I thought.
One came to my mind where it was the Foil Fest, and the wind had just come up after the comp, and did we want a downwind because we just got new foils, or you got a new board?
No, you had a new board.
I had a new board, yes.
Yeah.
And like I was just super keen to downwind because everyone logistically was going from the comp site back to like where we were staying, which was downwind.
Straight down.
So I was like, instead of driving, why don't we just downwind? But the thing was, it was like
the sun had already set.
15-kilometer run, or
it was like 18 or 20.
Yeah, it was like not short. But I didn't calculate in my head how long it would. I didn't know that. I probably thought it was 10 k's. I didn't realize it was 20. Yeah. And like we had maybe 30 minutes left of like light, but yeah, the sun had it was pretty much setting, and I was like, "No, we'll be sweet. Let's go." And he like ran down. He followed me, and we went, and it was sick. Like the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes was epic. But then
while it was light, it was epic.
Yeah. But then it literally got pitch black, and we were foiling as if you had a blindfold on.
That's cool.
Literally.
How did you do that?
Just feel.
Yeah, wow.
He was like,
Ninjas.
he was riding real low to try and keep his board to the water, so he knew. And I was like, I think I got to a point where, did I kind of yell out where just go, go? Yeah, because like we were together the whole run because we knew it was like super
like,
sketchy.
Literally, if we'd come down, like the extra minute that it was going to take you to paddle up would basically mean you, like, not only not find them, but like it was just. You didn't want to be out there for longer because it was just getting darker.
Yeah. It was so gnarly. Like it was, it was properly like closing your eyes and trying to downwind.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I knew Josh was going regardless because he had this look in his eyes. I'm like, because he goes, come on, let's just go. Let's stop mucking around. Like the more we talk about it, the more it's like, and I, in my head, I knew the math and I'm like, it's going to be dark by the time we get in. But I'm like, it's probably safer if I go with him than if he goes on his own.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, let's go then. So I sort of chased him down the beach and caught up to him, and like you said, it was epic. But yeah, like it was literally. How many times did you come down in the end?
At the end, I think I came down 3 or 4 times, and like, also like foiling in like with your eyes closed is hectic. Paddling up with your eyes closed is even more hectic, especially because it's not like corduroy. It was kind of like crossed up a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're just trying to feel like your nose rise, and then you'd paddle as hard as you could, but then something would come through it and create another uphill. And then I'd just be like, and then while this is all happening, like this area that we're at is not like, it's known for its sharks, like great white sharks.
Jeez.
And like I'm just going like, in my head I'm just started going like, oh, I'm panicking.
That could have gone bad.
Because like you can't send help because no one's going to see you. And then I was like, I can see the lights of where we needed to go in, like of the campsite, like all the car lights or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, do I just kind of give up and just paddle in on my chest? And then I actually got
one spot, like Big Hill was our last exit basically, and it was probably like to race course it was light too, and that would have been like the safest bet. But we both like, it's just
we were both just cocky, just we were sweet, we were fine.
And I remember going past Big Hill and I'm like, all right, well, there's not really an easy exit like to be found, like as in like there's a heaps of beach, but it wasn't an easy like you wouldn't really know where the beach paths to the road is. So it was going to be a big walk, and the easiest way was just to keep going.
Yeah. That's in my head. I was like, we need to make it. There's no plan B.
Yeah.
And then I got lucky, like, from all those, I think 4 or 5 paddle ups, made it to like pretty much where the point was, and I paddled in from the point in on my chest. And I remember a few of the boys were all waiting there because they were worried because they seen us send off, and it was. And then I didn't know if James came in. I didn't know if I overtook him in that period because it was literally pitch black.
Because I got set and I was with the family, I think, so I had to go like tell him that I was all, no, I wasn't. I was doing something. Yeah. And it was like, has Kiwi come in yet? And like, so we all, it was all good. But I didn't come down right until the very, like basically the beach break at Plummer. And I remember, like you said, like the paddle up was insane. And I'm like trying to like see and feel, and I paddled up and like, this could be a good little bump. And I paddled up and it ended up being a wave. It was a wave. Like, it was a wave on the,
That's
like,
wild.
the beach, And I just like, it was, but like.
Did you learn anything from having to foil in the dark, or was it just like,
no,
you're scaring yourself?
I learned that probably don't do it again.
Yeah. I probably learned too not to do it again, but like,
as dangerous as it could have been, in my head I was justifying it by worst case if we can't foil in this,
you paddle in.
You just paddle in.
Yeah.
Like, and I've paddled like through the night before in a stand up, and I know that you can do it. You can just lie down on your stomach and paddle, but it's not the nicest feeling with you.
And also I was worried what everyone else on land thought. Because, it's not fair on them. Yeah. It's like, if they're all worrying about you, and it's like, it's not the city. We're like fully in the bush. Like,
we did have our phones on.
We had our phones on us.
And Kiri, you had your light on in your pocket, so you could.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, I could always like kind of see if I was close enough. But that last, we lost each other in like the last probably 3 or 4 kilometers, and that's when you had the few falls, and people were like, oh, where's Kiri? He's like, literally, he was out. We were together. Maybe 10 minutes ago, like he's on this beach. He'll be swimming. Like, I have full confidence. But the scariest thing obviously was if you come off and you hit your head. Like like that's the same. But realistically, if that happens in daylight,
still pretty bad.
It's still pretty bad. Like you're not going to be found like within 5 minutes, within 10 minutes, within even 20 minutes, unless someone else coming down the run. So I don't know. It's a dangerous sport. And like in those situations, helmets seem like a really good idea because essentially if you knock yourself out, that's when you're in big trouble. But anyway, we live, we learn.
Yeah, but I'm sometimes a slow learner, so most of the time I'm a slow learner. Yeah. I got to make a lot of mistakes before it clicks in.
Yeah, that sounds like the kind of mistake you don't want to make again. If you can avoid it. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I wanted to finish by just kind of thanking Code Foils for letting me take the initiative on this Game Face movie. It was a pleasure making the film. Also wanted to thank the local foil shop here in Perth because they've jumped on board sponsoring it and letting everyone know in the local community and offering a prize for the raffle. Also, Foil Drive have thrown in a prize. Code's thrown in a prize, and then the location, the Kokomo's Livered Skate Shop in Skate Cafe in Freo. So it's cool that like everyone's kind of jumped on board this, and it's just nice to make events that are foil orientated and get the froth going.
Yeah, awesome.
I think Synova's, we're working on Synova to get something as well, but
yeah,
I think it's cool. Like basically the support from the foiling industry and community is huge, and that's what we're trying to cultivate and keep it growing and like keep that camaraderie and have less of, I guess, that potential for it to become a bit independent.
Yeah,
it's a bit solo.
And it's nice meeting people like yourself that are like continuing that stoke in like, you know, WA, and I know all the Voyager guys in Hawaii and they're doing very much the same thing there. So it's kind of like, you know, we're growing this thing and we're all growing it together because we're all friends, and it's just like, it's exciting because we can steer this ship. We can take it wherever we want, and it's kind of, yeah, it's fun.
It's going to a good place, I think. So
yeah.
It's great to see. Well, thanks for coming in, guys. That's this episode done. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, you.
That was such a good stitch up, dude. Honestly, like I didn't know where you were going with it, and then you put the etiquette thing on, and I was like, oh my god.
I was gonna defend you and be like, well, in his defense, like you weren't doing the wrong etiquette for the people in the water. It's just the lifeguards.
Yeah. No, but it was classic. I think it was like so clever of you.
No, I was because I was listening at actually driving back from a downwinder with Ange. And we both were just cracking up.
Oh yeah.
This is like.
She told me last night. I was laughing. Hey.
Yeah. This podcast was filmed at Studio Scotch. The Foil Project would like to thank the Old Scotch Collegians for their ongoing support and for letting us use this facility.